Years ago, after Popular Science, the first article they produced, I got a call from somebody named Bob Grew, all right? Yeah, and so anyway, I made the trip to Michigan. I met with him and some other folks, and we met in one of his buildings there. Don't remember which one it was at this time. He had some farmers there with him. One of them was Richard Nellett. Now, the thing about Richard, so that first year, I told Bob, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to apply this, do this, do this." And so Richard, he had white beans. I said, "Man, that's great. He grows white beans." And so at the end of the year, I got the information from Bob. "Bob, how'd yours do?" He told me exactly what it did, and I mean, it was great. I said, "How did Richard do?" He won't tell me. So what do you mean he won't tell me? He said, "Well, if I tell you, you'll raise the price." So anyway, I want you guys to welcome Richard Nellett. Come on up, Richard. All right, it's all yours.
Good. Hello.
If you don't do a good job, I'm going to convince him to raise the price.
Yes, and I don't want to tell anybody, any of my neighbors, I want to have the best crops around. But anyway, it's light enough I can read up here without glasses. This is my first time down in Mississippi. I've never been in the state before, and it's interesting. I can remember back in the second grade when spelling class, we had to learn how to spell Mississippi. I can still remember how to do it. You got to do it fast. The faster, the better. It was a lot of fun then. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P, really go. Yeah. I still remember. I want to thank Wayne for inviting me down and everything and providing all these meals. And, last night after that big meal, I had to go to the exercise room, work some of that off. And here there is TVs all over the place down there, and I'm watching basketball, of course, when I'm exercising there. And next up is MSU. I said, "Oh, great, little home basketball game here." I get there and said, "Gosh, I don't recognize any of these players. They're wearing wrong color uniforms." Well, here it is, Mississippi State. I'm used to Michigan State. After all, that's the way it is. I think MSU, they both won last night, I think. I'm not going to tell you my age or anything, but I did go to school at Michigan State with Peggy Fleming. Remember when she was winning everything back in the 60s? She was a figure skater, and I used to walk through the ice ring a lot on the way back and forth to school, and she'd be out there practicing, and amazing how that gal could skate. Of course, she won the gold medal in the Olympics, too. She was a great gal, and it kind of reminds me of biosol. Well, to me, it's biosol. That's where it started out, and I didn't realize it changed its name in between. I've just been using it every year for 3 years now. But, wins everything. It's really great. Well, anyway, the little bit I've been here in Mississippi, I see a lot of water around, waterways, rivers, cuts. Of course, the Gulf and everything, and my neighbor would go ape here. He loves to fish. He fishes all the time. In fact, I really don't know him because I haven't hardly seen him. He's always fishing. Hard to imagine a guy fishing that much, but he just loves to fish. So this one day, him and another guy were fishing along near the road, and funeral procession goes by. He takes off his hat and drops his fishing pole down half-mast, and after it goes by, puts his cap back on. He's back to fishing. And the guy with him says, "Boy, that's mighty big of you to do that for that funeral procession." He said, "Well, shucks," he said, "that's the least I can do. That was my wife in the hearse." So, that was a year ago or so. And it wasn't long, and he was missing her. So he puts an ad in the paper. Wanted, young woman, 45 to 55 years old, that would like to marry her, have for my wife, and I said, she must like fishing. She must be able to bait her own hook. She must be able to take a fish off the hook. She must have a boat and motor. Send picture of boat and motor. So anyway, I want to tell you, I know beans. I guess I'm ready for the picture now, if we got it. I grow black beans. Wow, I cleaned up, didn't I? But anyway, you can see where I use biossoil. It really made a difference. But black beans are a lot like soybeans. They're beans, but black beans are in the edible part of the beans, same as white navy beans, cranberry beans, kidney beans, and all those. Where soybeans, they grow taller and they're thinner, especially at harvest time. They're really narrow. These things are short and squatty, and sometimes that gives us problems harvesting, and they want to, especially if we have some bad weather. So it's interesting. Well, back 2009, I met Larry the first time ever, and of course that was the only time I seen him until the meetings here. And oh, here he comes. He reminds me of my son. Yeah, he was tall, dark, and handsome, just like my son. Of course, they're both gray now, but that's the way it goes. But, very knowledgeable, and everything he said about biossoil, gosh, it just sounded too good to be true. So I had to try some, and I planted my beans late that year. Now, remember, when I'm talking beans, I'm talking black beans. I do grow soybeans and wheat also, but I haven't got around to trying biossoil on that. So I got 5 gallons to put on 5 acres, and it was just too cold for me to go out and plant. It's got to be, you got to have good conditions for black beans. They're more temperamental than soybeans. So when I did get around to planting 3 weeks later, I planted the first 4 fields, and I got back in the big back field, and I had 14 acres of seed left, and I planted that, and then I had to go get some longer growing seed for the rest of the field. So the middle of that 14 acres, 5 acres I put in on the biossoil. And after a week or so, I could tell the difference. And it looked to me like 20% better. And it looked that way all the way to harvest time. And guys that planted their beans when it was too cold, they got their beans harvested in September when the weather was decent, and then got to October and the weather turned crappy. So I was talking to my accountant, and he said, hey, they got 3-4 combines there, and they're pretty well caught up. They only had a couple hundred acres more to go. They'd come over and help me if I was concerned about it. I said, well, I'm concerned. Yeah, you can come. So when the weather turned to half a day that we could get out and thrash, they come over and help me thrash. And with one combine, we brought 3 of their semi-trucks and put in the other fields, and my semi-truck in one. And we thrashed all afternoon, and it was getting dark, and the rain still wasn't there yet, which is amazing. So we went back to the backfield where the 5-acre plot was, and I went and got my tandem truck. I just rebuilt the top racks on it, made them a foot higher so I could easily load it, and everything. I did the headlands, and I did the sides of the field because the rest of the field I didn't want him to get mixed up in it. And I told him I got the plot flagged with flags, and in the dark, and with rain coming, he just thrashed everything. He even thrashed the flags. So I wanted to keep track of it. Well, I was able to keep fairly close track of it because I figured that was 14 acres. You know, and the other 4 fields we thrashed that day went from 37 to 40 bushel to the acre. You know, edible beans don't yield quite as much as soybeans, but they make up for it because they have a better price. And we use we export a lot of the black beans to Mexico. Well, that was the first load to put on my new sideboards. Well, he thrashed and it was dark. I thrashed the headlands and the sides, and my combine was running out of fuel, so I emptied it in the truck and took it up and put it in back in the pole barn. And he kept thrashing, and we eventually got done, and he had that truck heaping full. Beans were running off everywhere. And I drove real slow and got it up and put it in the barn before the rain. And the next day, in between showers, I dumped the semi-trucks, got them taken care of, and said, that truck's got such a big load on, I'm not going to take a chance taking that up during the week. I'm going to wait till the weekend when the way lady's not around. So, and when I did dump it, it's 624 bushel. That's way, way too much. But anyway, divide that by 14 acres. That's 44.5 bushel the acre. That's a good yield. But if we do it a little further, 9 acres of that was not treated with biosol. And if I use what the other fields went, about 37 bushel, that's 333 bushel. So that leaves me 291 bushel divided by 5 acres that were treated, and that's over 50 bushel the acre. That's better than 20%. That's amazing. So 2010, I decided I'm going to use biosoil on half of it. I still want to test it. And had excellent planting weather. Nice warm weather. Beans come up great. They were growing great. And then all of a sudden, on June 27th, we had a small localized thunderstorm, 0.7 of an inch of rain. And I thought, boy, that's perfect. We'll have the best beans ever. Off to a great start, and a nice shower like that. Well, they got sick. They got the root rot. And all my neighbors within the area that shower was, that planted that same day, theirs got the root rot too. So I decided, I know what works. I'm going to treat all of them, except I'm going to just leave one little strip for a test, because they're bad. They need help. So I treated them all with biosol. They decided to grow. They grew good. They looked good. They did good. And when I harvested them, had good weather for harvest that year, it was unbelievable. They were over 40 bushel the acre. And they really got sick from that thunderstorm. temperamental things anyway. That little test strip that I didn't put any biosoil on was less than 30. So another more than 20%. Well, 2011, another cold, wet spring. Just refused to be decent weather, and then all of a sudden it changed. Hot and dry, and it stayed dry all summer. Well, I got the beans in after it dried up a little bit. I couldn't waste any time because how it is when it gets hot. Sometimes the soil will dry out and you get it worked up and you plant and beans won't have enough moisture to germinate. But I got them in, got them going, and I thought they need help again this year. So I put biosoil on everything except a little test. And they went over 50 bushel to the acre. Best beans ever. So I'm completely sold on biosoil. I'm going to use it forever. It's a great product. That's 3 years in a row. So it's going to be hard to even leave a test strip. So